Welcome to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the series 10 pounds, 10 times, where I document my journey to lose 100 pounds. All right, everybody, welcome back. This is going to be episode 206 on the podcast, and I am coming to you with my weekly results for 10 pounds, 10 times. I did not publish 10 pounds, 10 times last week. I'll get to that in a minute. But I'm gonna update you with weigh in from last week and weigh in this week. Before we get into that, just to give you some background and understanding of like where things have been. So Frank was out of town last week into early this week to visit family in Texas and Mexico. And that left me solo parenting. And when I tell you, we're going through a phase right now. I think I shared this in one of my episodes recently, but when I'm here by myself and I have my son, Javi, who's 3, I cannot get anything done. And this is new. Like, he was such an amazing sleeper / napper. And we are going through the phase where he's about to hit 3.5 and he's, trying to be done with naps, even though his body would like him to take a nap and he very much needs one. We are just really going through that right now. Last week, I thought I would have the bandwidth to record the episode in addition to the ones that were published last week, and that just did not happen. So, I think it also like spills over into when I share my results and where things are at. It's just been from the moment I open my eyes to the moment I close my eyes, there is a child like attached to me. And, before this like little phase was happening, before Frank would go to work, he works evenings. So before he would head to work in the afternoon and we would do like the shift change, when I would stop working and take over, Javi would give me like a good 3 to 4 hour nap sometimes. Like, this kid could nap. And so I was able to get a full day of work. I was able to spend one-on-one time with Kat, help her with homework, stuff like that. And right now, you could probably hear the tiredness in my voice. Like, we're just really going through it. And then he's also not wanting to sleep in his bed at night, which this kid has always wanted his bed. He's always, we do our little bedtime routine and whatnot. And he's usually like, okay, mommy, I'm ready to go to my room. And he will go in his bed, and then 5 minutes later, I hear the thump because he jumps out. So if you're a parent and you've been through this stage or you're going through this stage, I know you get it. And it's really hard. And in some ways, it feels like when you're starting over with a newborn where you don't have any time to yourself. So that's just where I've been. But I'm really happy that Frank got to take this trip. It was much needed, much overdue. And I'm glad that he got to go by himself because he hasn't been to visit family like that by himself since we've had kids. Of course, we've gone together many, many times. And also, so he needed that time to spend with them and not have to focus on like me or the kids and running around and stuff like that. And also, let's be real, it's cheaper, right? Like, if just the 5 of us, Chewy included, fly, you're talking a couple thousand, probably at least $1,000 or $2,000 just on the flight. Then the hotel and the car and the food and then. So anyway, it was a sacrifice. It was a rough week. I'm glad that he did it, and I'm happy for him. And it was just really rough back on the home base. It was really rough with Javi, and also because of the not napping thing. He needs naps. Like, he still needs them because he's exhausted. And so dealing with a toddler in the afternoons around dinner time who hasn't slept, you know how that goes. Like, it's been unwell, to say the least. So that's where I'm at mentally. And when this happens, it's so hard for me because, I'm very driven in my work and my business and what I want to accomplish. And you've got this little person who's running the show, honestly. Like, 3 is such a hard age. Everybody says terrible twos. It is not terrible twos for it. And it was the same way with Kat. 3 is the hardest. So, not being able to get things done. And this goes across the board from the podcast to the house. Like, I had to just surrender that, like, over these few days, the house is just going to be a mess. Like, there are toys like crawling out of every single room. And if that's what it takes to stay sane and to just have some moment of time, to myself while they play, then so be it. It can all be cleaned up. There's laundry everywhere. There's probably not an open, like, the kitchen, you have like with the sink and there's like a bar kind of area, like the islands and stuff. We don't have an island, but we have like the sink with the bar that looks into the family room. And I don't think there's an empty counter. Like, I can't even see any white from the countertops because there's just stuff. Like, whether it's the mail, whether it's toys from him I've had to take away because he's throwing them. Just, it's ridiculous. And, Frank is back. He's been back. But, with our schedules and everything, we're still... it's still, I'm still kind of in the same spot that I was a week ago because I haven't had a break. Let's just say that. I have not had one break. And yeah, so that's where I'm at. And I'm going to share with you my weight loss results. And I was so excited to do a video last week because I was so happy with my results. And last week when I weighed in, I was 222. The prior week, I was 223.7. So my weight has just been so up and down. So I think when I recorded my recorded episode, I was up to 225, and then I went down to 223, and then my official weigh-in last week was 222.4, and then there's this week, and this week, and I literally just weighed in this morning, I am at 224. So I am not happy about that. I am not thrilled by that because I had a goal to be out of the 220s by February. It is now February 1st. So it was a miss, but I'm going to get into that in just a second. And last week when I saw the 222, I really thought that I would be down, like, oh yeah, there's no way that I'm going to like not, kill it this week. And I didn't. And here's what happens. I don't follow the practice anymore of beating myself up because it's pointless, right? What's happened has happened. A pound here, a pound there. It really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of life and things, because the way I look at weight loss too is it's a average. Like, so here's what I'm saying. If you go back and look at your month, are you down for the month? Okay. And I am. So when I look at the month, I am still on January the 2nd, I was 227. And today I'm 224. Would I still have liked that to be 222 or 219 today? Absolutely. Of course I would. But the reality is it's not. And instead of beating yourself up and saying, I'm done with this, see, it always bounces, like, your weight is going to fluctuate. You're going to have weeks like that. So I urge you to always look at the bigger picture in terms of like the overall month and where you are. And if we're still down, that's great. Do we want to be down more? Yes, we did. But here's where you have to ask yourself some questions. This is where you have to be willing to get honest with yourself. And one of those questions is this: did the results reflect the effort? I will repeat that. Did my results reflect my effort? And this is where it gets hard, because I think a lot of times in weight loss, we lie to ourselves, we deny things to ourselves, and we're like, no, like, I should have been down to 219, I did everything right. And you have to be like, really? Like, ask yourself that question. Did you really do everything the way you were supposed to? And I'm going to be very honest in my answer that my effort earned the results that I received this month. My effort earned the results that I received this month. I know that for part of the month, I half-assed what I was doing. Last week, it's like I fell into a vortex. I fell into a black hole of just like Groundhog Day with just insanity. And so when that happens, I know for me, I have a habit of taking my eye off the ball. And I tell you guys all the time, that's one of the keys to weight loss is you have to stay focused. You have to keep your eye on the ball. And I'm not tracking, I'm not planning, I'm not doing those things that I know will lead to results. And I think I shared in the last episode about this. I've been fighting against it. Like, I just don't want one more thing to do. So I bounce between this place of wanting to go hard, wanting to just like go all in and like, you know, track everything and stay in my points and do this and do that, to bouncing back into my reality, which is you own a business, you work all the time, you have 2 small kids. One of those kids has diabetes, which requires a lot more, like you're constantly focused on that. Your attention span is not someone that can just go all in right now. And it's okay. Like, it is okay to admit that to yourself, right? Like, we can have results, which I did, without going hard, right? Like, we don't have to go hard to get the results. Now, you have to adjust your expectations, right? Like, there's the rub. You have to adjust your expectations. And last week, like with the house, I told myself, we're going to just lower our expectations so that we're not disappointed. We're going to have Magna blocks and toys and shit all over the house. And it's okay. Like, this is just how it has to be so you can survive the week. But weight loss, because as you know, if you're listeners of this, you know that it's much more emotional and mental than it is physical. The physical piece to me is the easy part. It's the mental, emotional piece. And part of weight loss is learning how to reframe and talk to yourself and process those results. And I think, I know, in the past, like with diet culture and such, toxic diet culture, anything that wasn't a loss was a fail. And then that would turn into, well, who cares? Let's throw the towel in. And the next week goes by and you still haven't lost. And then you're gaining and gaining and gaining. And next thing you know, the classic story I always share where your shorts don't fit and it's springtime, right? So it's just being a mom. It's one of the most, honestly, like rewarding things. And like, the love I have for my children is unmatched. Like, it's just, I can't even put it into words, but it's also one of the hardest things you can do. And it's a constant balance of that, of like, you're so frustrated. Like, here's a classic example. Like, you're so frustrated because they won't go to sleep and they're not listening and they're not going to bed on time. And like, it's just, the bedtime circus that goes on, the chaos. And you might raise your voice at them because they're not listening. When you said something, you said to brush their teeth like 10 times and nobody's listening. And then you raise your voice and it's like, oh, okay. And then they go to bed and you look at their little sweet faces while they're sleeping and you feel like complete shit because you raised your voice and you think, did I do everything right today? No, I didn't. And you start to go through that whole thing of like, I shouldn't have raised my voice. I should have played with him more. I should have wanted to play with him more. I should have wanted to do more like, educational things. And sometimes you're just trying to get through it. And it's this constant like battle of yourself. Like, it's like constantly going through that battle of like, and then the next day you're like, I'm killing it. Like, they're not annoying me. Like, they're being really good. And I'm, doing the little mom things and, getting my work done too and this and that. And it's just a constant thing. And I just, I'm almost in this 8 years now. And I remind myself that all of it, they're seasons, right? Like, they're seasons of life, and this too shall pass. Like, this phase will pass, and I know that from experience. And then I was like in my feelings, and I had seen this video. It's an old song by Darius Rucker. It's like a really, really old song. Let me find the name of it. I had never heard the song before, and it is called It Won't Be Like This for Long. Oh, the video is like him and his like little kids, and I'm like choking up thinking about it. It's basically about the stages of life of your little kids and how, it won't be this way forever. And as I'm listening to it, I have both kids in my bed. They're watching their tablets, and I'm like, so what if they fall asleep in here tonight? Like, oh well, like it won't be like this for long, right? But when you're going through it, it can just be really hard. So just sharing my personal life with you guys, because it has such a impact on my weight loss results. And I want you to remember that about yourself too, that sometimes we just have to adjust our expectations. I know that I will break out of the 224s. And here's what's interesting that I also want to share is, there's usually a number where I get to, I lose, I bounce back a pound or two, I lose again, and I kind of flutter between that number. And I mean, I have to say, 224 is not where I want to be. But the fact that that's where I'm bouncing back to versus where I was a year ago or even like 6 months ago, I feel pretty good about that. So we're going to just keep on moving along. And I haven't, let's talk about non-scale victories, because I think that's really important too, because this journey is not just about last week I was this and this week I am that and I have lost X number of pounds. There's more to it. Non-scale victories. So I have noticed, I haven't lost a ton of pounds, right? Where like my husband is down 50 pounds, like men and their weight loss. Okay. So, he's lost like 50 pounds. It's very obvious. Like, he looks really good. And here's me, still like chugging along, like way behind. And sometimes, like, I was noticing last week, I'm like, the weight hasn't come down like all that much, but I was just noticing I feel different. Like, my clothes feel different. I feel like a balloon who is deflating, like, and it's winter, so I'm wearing a lot of like long sleeve, like longer, like like hoodies or like a long sweater type thing. And I have noticed that they're hanging around my hips versus like hugging my hips. So what I mean, how like hoodies have like the elastic around the waist, so you can either wear it like up high or down low, whatever. And I've noticed that it's just falling down, where before it was kind of like sitting on my waist. And the same with some of my other sweaters and stuff. And then I was out in the garage, getting ready to go for a walk with Chewy, and Frank had come home with the kids. This was last week before he left, and he's like, babe. I'm like, what? He's like, I can tell. I'm like, you can tell what? like in a rush, I'm like, tell what? He's like, I can tell you've lost weight. And I had a baggy hoodie on, guys. So, I mean, like, if he can tell, I feel really good about that. And so the clothes are fitting differently. I can feel it. I can tell it. And I also my like pajamas that I wear when I get up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, they're like falling off when I'm walking, like the pants. They're like little shorts or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I see you. Like, something's happening here. Things are changing. Things are moving and shifting. And I am on board with that. 100%. I also have not been eating out like I was before, where a lot of times before, like, the kids would go to bed and we would order DoorDash. We don't do that anymore. Like, I'll get maybe, if I'm even hungry, I'll get like maybe some cheese and crackers or something like that. Cheese and salami is like my favorite snack. And I'm not ordering DoorDash during the week like I used to. I'm cooking more at home and eating smaller portions. And again, it's happening organically. It's not happening like okay, today we're going to have this and tomorrow. Like, I haven't been in that phase because I just mentally I cannot go there right now. I probably need to tighten it up a little bit more because of, the bouncing back and forth. But, there's also a lot of the food I don't want. Like, I'll even go. So there's a habit, right? Food is a habit for us. And food becomes a treat. It becomes something to look forward to. And I don't really have that right now. There's times where I want to eat because it's what I know. It's like something I know that I think would soothe me in that moment, but I don't want to. So I don't, if that makes any sense. And that I give credit to the tirzepatide injections because it definitely has an effect on there, and you feel more full and you don't want food as much and you don't have the cravings. And it's just wild to me. Like, and it's not to say I don't ever have cravings. I do, but I find myself like feeling like bored or like a little bit coming out of my skin. Like, I don't know what to do right now. I normally would want to eat, but right now I just don't want to. So now what do I do? And it's a little bit of a strange feeling. So again, just want to recap the question to ask yourself if you're not happy where you are. And I would even ask this if you're happy where you're at this week, is, did my results reflect my effort? Did my results reflect my effort? And have that honest conversation with yourself. And if your answer is no, then what are you going to do to change that this following week so that you can stay on track, keep your eye on the ball, stay in the game, and not fall off? That's what we're going to focus on this week. All right. On that note, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you guys have an amazing day. And until next time, stay irresistible. Bye, guys.